podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Chris Prunty. On today's episode, we continue our delicious expedition into the world of 1,000 flavors. On today's episode, we're actually going to be introducing factions, events, and conflicts into this pretty cute but ultimately dark world. Chris, why don't you go ahead and give us a start?
Barbarians. I want barbarians.
Barbarians?
Bees?
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's like barbarian but bears.
Oh, so
Yes.
not like bee barbarians, but barbarians.
Chris isn't having a moment. He's actually trying to make a punny thing.
It's a great pun. Everyone loves it.
Okay, Trump.
Fuck you. But no.
Chris is officially the Trump of the podcast.
Fuck
now.
you, I am not.
He's gonna get reelected then.
Yeah, that means he gets to keep showing up on the podcast. It's great.
I'm not being investigated for any fraud yet.
Yet. Yeah, we'll see.
But no, it's a placeholder for what I wanted to do as the group of apex predators that didn't want to kind of bend to societal norms in this world of not eating each other.
Oh.
And I wanted it to not be like depicted as the Reavers in certain aspects, or like the uncivilized people from the north who like cannibalize, because to them it's just the natural order of things.
I imagine that these are Northlanders as well, where food is even more scarce than normal.
For like the Wendigo kind of effect of like,
Well, no,
that's
just because with snow and tundra, there's just demonstrably less food. So there is more of an excuse for them to have to eat other animals.
But I also wanted to be like, they draw the line at kind of other members of their group.
Oh, I see.
And while it can be done, it's more in a real ritualistic kind of way if they have to do it, or a time of desperation. But for the most part, they get their food from ravaging other areas. And I wanted them to be opposed to the monks and religious folks that I brought up in our previous one, mainly because I always love is a strong word, but I remember reading stories about how Vikings would raid churches and everything, and like all of the monks would go up into a tower and just wait for them to leave.
Yeah, love is not the word you want to use for like the butchering of people.
Interested.
Yeah, interested for sure. Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. Can we add a little? I had an idea. Can we add a little bit extra to this where the barbarians prefer to eat those who put up a better fight because they think it's more honorable in some way?
Better prey.
No, they just
Tastier
taste
prey.
better for some
Tastier
reason.
prey.
Yeah.
Adrenaline and endorphins.
Well, I mean, usually that sours the meat a little bit, but I would say that, yeah, you want to take them unknown.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's accurate,
bam.
actually, because otherwise the
storm.
meat can get like tense and gross.
Oh, so are they sneaky barbarians? Like, so we're not picturing like giant, like.
Well, no, this isn't real world, Daniel. I think in barbarian world they don't really give a fuck. You know, I don't think that they're butchering people in the middle of the night.
Oh, so they're not stealthily attacking to keep the meat fresh.
Have you seen a bear? They're incapable of stealth, man.
You can have stealthy bears.
They're called drop bears. They're the ninjas of the bear world.
Drop bears.
But those aren't even bears. Those are marsupials, Chris.
Ooh, I have a question for you, Chris, about these barbarians.
Go on.
Well, the question is, what's their relationship to insects? But my real question is, because the insects are like the wildlife.
They are very, very different from insects. But
do they ride the insects?
Oh my god! You just want to have your Vorpal ladybug?
Yes. Yep.
Because
they don't eat them, right?
We would have like a woolly ladybug here. Like they would be like furry insects here. They wouldn't
like
be
elephant
Vorpal.
Size. Yeah, the flying ones are the Vorpal ones.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I don't know anything about tundra insects, but
like woolly spiders.
Oh yeah. That. Oh god. Oh. I was interested, and then I pictured it in my mind.
So, but do they eat do they treat the insects as another source of food, or do they have like an alliance with them? Like, how does that
We
work with them?
we could have it more of where the insects are seen as a companion, so they're
Okay.
similar to the other members of their group, where
Mhm.
maybe they'll bleed out the insect for some of its ichor and kind of survive off of that, but they see it as slightly taboo to eat something that they've bonded with in such a way.
Oh, I love that.
Cool.
Going for I'm not going to pronounce his name the way Rob wants. Genghis Khan?
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
That's close. That's acceptable for someone like you.
You prick.
Burn. Another question. So like we our Robin asked about their landscape of where they live, and how is it like a dearth of food because in the north. We talked about the ley lines and that they're the things that have kind of broken down in their plant life where things grow. Is the ley lines near them like dead, or are they just far away from them, or do they have their own kind of ley line?
I kind of wanted them to be against the ley lines as the fact that they're so separate from this group that say whenever civilization isn't quite the right word, when non-nomadic people were kind of setting down in this world, they looked for the ley lines. They made things on the ley lines, whereas these people always traveled to points or along the ley lines.
Yeah, that makes sense because they're friends with the insects, so they could actually live among them, which I imagine the insects don't necessarily live near the ley lines. I mean, they could. But...
I'm getting a vibe where like they don't really use magic very much. I'm getting a very strong like Fafford from Fafford and the Grey Mouser, like Lonkmar series, like where it's a matter of there's magic, but only one person uses the magic and no one trusts them, you know? And because it's all food based, I imagine that it's like very simple, very like, here, eat this like muffin, you know, eat this very bland muffin, but it's still going to imbue you with some kind of symbolic strength or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of, when I was thinking them up, I thought of a character that I remember reading in Pathfinder that was like, eats what he kills.
Yes, that is from Curse of the Crimson Throne. No, I'm sorry. Hold on.
I think that is Curse of the Crimson Throne. Or that story arc.
Yes, it's from Curse of the Crimson Throne, and the character's name is, hold on, Crojan Eats What He Kills.
Eats what he kills.
God damn it, that's a cool name.
Yes. And also, I wanted it to be the kind of mentality of when you eat something, you get its strength. So as they're conquering, whether it be real or it be imagined, they think that they're taking on the strength of the victims or the people that they raid.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so that would make sense that they would target like the more
stronger.
Yeah, the more powerful warriors. Absolutely.
What I like about them too is that even though they are these barbarians, it seems like it's possible to reason with them and to have some sort of relationship where they don't eat you because they have a rationale to how they behave. My faction involves the opposite of food because certainly there must be people out there who deny the flesh and delicacies and view the situation of the ley lines dying as some event to be heralded as a new beginning and praise it. So these, I don't have a name for them, but let's call them the abstainers. They are super religious and they live perhaps on a dead ley line. Like they built their brutalist architecture on top of it. I'm picturing like some kind of, you know, concrete tower or very stripped down Spartan kind of space. A feature of them is that they actually hunt down the magical Cheshire cats because they want to sacrifice them to whatever thing they worship, and perhaps in this dead tree or this dead edifice that they've built their structure on top of. And I what I wanted to have as a visual is that this structure they live in, it's maybe the ley line isn't quite dead, but what they do is they strip it periodically of its green to expose the bark. And maybe as an animals, I pictured something like the Skeksis or some unpleasant, like bird-like creatures, perhaps. But as a twist, I thought it would be neat if their leader was in fact one of the magical cats turned evil.
Oh, that's fun. I also love the idea of a complex built around a dead tree, because I feel like there's a lot of symbolism there that we can kind of, glean off of.
Yeah. I just don't know like what exactly they worship, what their motivations are. I just picture them as being like, as someone who drinks evil Soylent heretics, perhaps.
Evil Soylent?
Soylent heretics.
This is all we need. All we need is provided to us without the need of flavor.
Yeah.
Right. So they're essentially like masochists, but in like
purists.
No, they're not. No, that's not. No, not
that's
purists. Right. I also imagine that there's some aspect to them that is like all into flagellation, where they're just like whipping themselves essentially. Oh, wait, this is going to be awful. Holy shit. Worse than that, they are scraping the taste buds from their tongue.
Yes. They don't, their tongues are all messed up and maybe their voices are screwed up because of it. Oh, I love that.
That's super gross. That's great. Yeah, that's horrifying.
And if they're birds, that explains why they have this shrieking voice.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and they probably pull out their feathers on purpose to make either like weapons with them, like the pinions, as a form of atonement,
Oh, that yes. Oh, that's double up on it. So not only are they like fucking up their tongues, but now they're also like pulling out feathers because they think that, that's it. That's the way that they can satisfy the. Okay, so do they worship a deity? Is that what we're experiencing here, where they're worshiping some kind of fucked up god?
I think so, although I'm a little bit torn because I feel like it might be too simple. That's why I was thinking like maybe they worship a leader like that evil cat and it has a different goal. I just feel like deity might be too simple.
Like the L. Ron Hubbard of Beefcats.
Yes. Oh, that's exactly right, Chris.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
If it's an evil cat, like either we established each of the cats have like a philosophy or like a wisdom to impart about that has to do with food. So maybe this cat's wisdom is like a twisted thing,
Yeah, it's like maybe it's just a really greedy fat cat who's like, no, don't eat the food. Give the food to me.
Oh, give me the other cats so I can eat them.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it thinks that it can absorb their power.
Yeah. So secretly, it really is into flavor and everything, but it teaches its followers to deny themselves.
Yes.
You're not also, pure enough.
I keep thinking about the tongue scraping, and it just grosses me out each time. I'm like, ugh.
They use like a cheese gratery thing on their tongues.
Oh, come on, no.
Yeah, for sure. Ugh. Oh God. Okay, let's pivot away from this real quick, because that's awful. So my faction, I haven't done a mercenary band yet, so I wanted to do something in the lines of like what are they called, the band of Bravos or something like that? What are they called? Chris?
Second Sons.
Sure.
Or Brown Ben was one of them. Oh shit. Yeah, I remember Second Sons being the big one.
Gotcha. So I'm trying to do something that is more in lines with, like Game of Thrones is Second Sons, or even, like Band of the Hawk from Berserk, something along those lines, where you have a well-known mercenary company and what they're well known for. So I decided to create the Order of Broken Crowns, and these are the remnants of 3 kingdoms that were conquered by my event person, who is Rashad the Roadmaker. And essentially he was a conqueror who, and I'll get to him in my event actually right after this, but essentially they are 3 former kings who had their lands conquered and decided that we still have armies, we can still fight against this menace. If we join forces, we can defeat Rashad the Roadmaker and we can reclaim our kingdoms. And, they meet and they decided to put aside their differences. And after years and years and years of fighting, they finally reclaim one city. And to their utter horror and disgust, when they get to that city, they are not welcomed as liberators. In fact, they are seen as invaders because Rashad has done such a good job taking care of those people that they do not want the previous kings reinstalled anymore. And so, dejected, they leave and essentially, well, we still have armies. I guess we're going to become mercenaries now. And years later, the remnant of the Order of Broken Crowns is that mercenary company.
What animals are they?
Whatever is appropriate. I actually left that part fairly blank because I didn't really think about it. I know what Rashad is.
Mm-hmm.
Rashad is a stoat, but I don't know what the other three are. And if you guys want, you're more than welcome to add in now.
Oh, are they a mixture of animals?
Yeah, they were from 3 different kingdoms, so I imagine that they're 3 different animals.
Okay, so the bands now, they are a mix of different, which should be interesting. It's a mix of different creatures.
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
Armies.
I was thinking that they each had their own specialty as well, because, let's say that each nation was known for one thing. Yeah. And so it was a matter of essentially keeping themselves in a state of deadlock or check or stalemate rather. So,
would it maybe be food that's necessary, that depends, like ingredients that depend on each other to make a dish?
See, I didn't even necessarily have it being food related right away. I was thinking more in terms of like combat abilities and combat strength. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of, these are the best infantry where they have, the phalanx and shield wall. And then they have the best archers over here and the best cavalry over there. And then the 3 of them together actually form a very, powerful group,
One of them could definitely be wolves or dogs. I'm thinking.
I think I would prefer dogs here. Dogs, or actually, let's make it foxes instead.
Ooh, foxes, yeah.
Yeah, let's do foxes.
I mean, that's one that had a stealthy kind of combat.
Yeah, Chris, what would you? I'll let you add your persona to it. What animal would you like to add in here?
It would definitely be a fox.
All right, but for you though, you want the fox?
Yeah, I want the fox. Yeah.
All right, we'll add in a new one then. You got to add in a new one. Christopher, what? You knew we were going to be talking about animal people, and you're not ready for this?
I'm not gonna go into a fursona.
What's a fursona?
I will literally edit around it, so you will say this. So you might as well get it out now.
I hate you so much. We haven't done anything with yeah. Let's. I want a herbivore, so let's go with a chicken.
Chicken. Okay.
What is their fighting ability?
For some reason, I'm imagining a chicken with a mustache and or like a Van Dyke, maybe. Where
a little spike helmet.
I also just want a chicken and a fox teaming up.
But that's a good point. How do the chickens fight? We know the foxes are stealthy.
Have you
quick?
Have you ever seen it or played like Link to the Past or anything?
I have not.
Those chickens will fuck you up.
So they like swarm you? They just like swarm you? Is that what they're fat? They like great in numbers?
Yes.
I imagine that they're archers. I think that archers they will blot out the sun, so we can fight in the shade.
Okay. So then we need your phalanx one, and I think Rob, you should pick that one.
All right, so we need a strong one. Well, we have foxes, we have chickons.
So
So
range,
what goes with
stealth,
that?
and then we need like brutal strength or defense.
Yeah, let's do brutal strength. And in my mind, right, I had these things as like using 2 maces, but like the kind of old school maces that don't have like they're basically just metal balls on a stick.
Yeah.
So they're very simple, but there can also be like drums essentially. I'm thinking like bears or oxen or something like that, but I feel like that
would be good.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. No, hold on. I have to give this to my heart of hearts and give a shout out to Brian Jacques in Redwall. I'm going to say that they are in fact badgers.
Badgers.
Yes. So the badgers are going to be like these tough, badass dudes. and they're the what? Yes, that's exactly what's going on. They're badgers. So we have
Okay.
the chicken, fox, badger order of the broken crowns.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Did you say what was the thing that broke apart their kingdoms in the beginning that took their kingdoms?
I'm so glad you gave me that segue into my event, Daniel, because the event that broke their kingdoms apart
Mhm.
was the coming of Rashad the Roadmaker.
Oh.
So Rashad the Roadmaker is essentially an empire builder. He is the one who when he where he conquers, the spice traders follow.
Mhm.
And as a result, he is the first one to essentially recognize that combining flavor profiles and combining spices from different lands leads to more potent and better magic.
Mhm.
So he is the one who he essentially started out as uh, a stoat who is, not native to the area, and then grew up and was exiled, and then recognized, oh, wait a minute, between this food and this food, if we combine certain things together, oh wow, that's even more that's even more potent. And so with that knowledge, he then creates an empire throughout the world that starts connecting. You want to talk about like the Silk Road, essentially. It's like that, but the Spice Road with this, where it's a matter of he's connecting continents together and becoming the nexus for spices and flavor.
So he
Alternatively, you can call him the mayor of Flavortown.
Oh my god.
I love this merch because a stoat's such a tiny little, weaselly creature. So it's like his real power comes from his intelligence and his understanding of how commerce works.
That's exactly right. He is, and he, don't get me wrong, he has armies. But more importantly, he's a master at tactics, diplomacy, and trade. That's where his real power comes from. And as I had mentioned in the faction breakdown, when he conquers people, he often leaves them better than where they were in their previous state. So he's coming in and he's actually creating, like I wanted to make a somewhat benevolent empire ruler. Essentially, I was kind of aiming for like an ancient Persian thing where, they would come in and they would install governors essentially and be like, hey, look, you're allowed to keep most of your customs, most of your this, but we're going to install, this, and this to make your government run better. And also, we're going to improve your economy. And also, you just got to pay us some taxes and fealty and stuff like that. And occasionally throw some troops when we need it. Yada, yada, yada. Real simple stuff. And then that's essentially how they ran empires. And that's what I want to do with Rashad. He is a conqueror, he's badass, but he's also, more importantly, he's a diplomat and a governor.
Do you also see it as one of like a figure that people refer to in the past sense of this empire, or is it kind of like an Alexander the Great currently out conquering kind of thing?
He is, I imagine that where we are now in the story, he is either very old or they talk or it's been like a couple of years since he's passed.
Is there a dark side that we don't know about? Because I love the concept of the benevolent conqueror, but there's usually some catch that not everyone knows about. Like what's his catch?
He's still an imperialist. He's still
Okay.
a conqueror, and he's still like, what I would imagine is happening is when you take a look at what he does in terms of appropriating and kind of crushing other cultures, is that he'll come into a place and be like, look, this is what your spices are going to do now. This is the imperial way to cook this dish. It's better, trust me. But meanwhile, there's like some older tradition that is more flavorful, just different or better. And you see that a lot when it comes to imperialism with food in the natural world. You see a lot of ancient techniques that are dying or dead because they're not as well known or they're more difficult, or oftentimes because it's like, hey, you're going to use these different ingredients now. Stop making the food that you used to make the way that you do it. You're making it wrong. Here's how you're going to be doing it, even though it's not necessarily the way that is better.
So there's like a certain like if you run afoul of his new standard, then there might be a chance of a certain cruel efficiency you face. But otherwise, if you want to like work with him, then he can be great.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But even if when you do work with him, he's going to get his cut. Like that's
Yes.
just what it
So
comes
he's
down to.
exacting and utilitarian, I guess, in like his thinking.
Exactly. Yes.
I also wanted my event to be something that affected the entire world as a whole. And I always like stories that have one big event of either magical origin or something that left a geographical like mark on the world. And I wanted it to be something like the Scourging of Salt, where there is just a salt flat that kind of scrubs through most of the land, and it gives everyone kind of access to salt, but also it's part of the reason of when stuff started dying, because from here it kind of leached away nutrition in the soil and started to spread outward.
So this is like a bleaching ley line almost.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Is this a natural occurrence, or is this something that was forced upon the land?
I was seeing it as either someone had tampered with something that they weren't supposed to, or no one understands quite really why it's happening.
Does it
Okay.
come out of the evil cat land?
Okay, let
No.
me.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I
Finish your
kind of
thought.
like it in the aspect of like the ley line, the spokes of the world are kind of just slowly breaking.
Oh, so this is like almost an effect or symptom of what's happening to the ley lines.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just kind of throw in my own I would like to throw in my own fan fiction here, because now I'm thinking of something else, and I'm picturing someone trying to make a soup in a giant lake, or someone trying to make a soup in like what is essentially like what's it called, Yellowstone National Park, where they're like, all right, there's a big geyser, we're gonna make a broth and a stew out of it, and then for some reason that ritual in particular summons a salt storm,
So
because there's just
you're using a caldera as a cauldron?
yes, exactly
Nice.
right.
Nice.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's the plan.
And I'm guessing this cauldron where the source of the salting is happening has poured into the veins of the ley lines.
That would actually make sense. Like it's not like a matter of an eruption, but a matter of it seeping into the ley line of the earth itself.
It's like
No,
an environmental what is it called, like when you have to have like an environmental cleanup when something like leaches into the land, into the soil.
contamination?
Yeah, I just can't think of the word. I know in real estate there's like you want to avoid that kind of situation because it's really expensive to have them to do an environmental like study on it.
Oh, that
It's
happened.
incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
I forget what it is called, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're not smart enough to know what this is, Daniel. But yeah,
But I'm visualizing though, and Chris was describing like if we take it to like the magic degree, you could have the land turning white and trees turning to ash, and like you could have really cool effects as a result of it poisoning the land.
absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking that of, well, not only that, but like maybe a rain of salt or something like that as well. Yeah.
Because like far away from the source, you're feeling the effects of flavor being drained from what grows in the earth. But the closer you get to it, you probably see the actual earth warped by it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. How big is this area, Chris?
So I guess it would depend on the timeline in which you're thinking about this. I wanted to be like something that went across the map, but was very small, and it has just slowly kind of built as a canyon kind of outward.
Oh, so we're talking about a canyon. That's pretty cool.
A canyon, a scar, a valley. It's kind of like going outward and kind of filling in natural areas as it flows out.
Yeah, I like that. Like the bigger, the scarier, And if it's big, the source, then it makes sense that it has far-reaching effects.
Yeah, I also like the idea that it like can potentially swallow areas around it as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can we talk about the inhabitants of this place? By the way, like who lives there?
Oh, I was
What
gonna say
lives
like
there?
if anything, like maybe insects or something, but
Definitely
I couldn't picture anyone wanting to live there.
Are the insects made giant because of the source?
Yes, they are.
Like they maybe they were normal insects, but now the world's being overrun by them because they're contaminated by it. and being that they're insects usually need like some symbiotic relationship with plants, right? Like especially like bees and stuff. So maybe they're like they can't get enough from the land because now it's being weakened by their sheer size, and this poison.
I'm imagining that there's some kind of like a pill bug, like
Yes.
because they don't necessarily need or they don't have as much of a symbiosis between plant life as others do.
Oh, you know what really makes me mad? Okay, so those things, what are they called? I think are they just called grubs? The things that live under the lawn, they eat it and they turn into beetles. I
Yeah,
bet
I
there's
believe they're
like,
called grubs.
Yeah.
yes, there's like giant ass ones, I bet, that are ruining whole like farmlands,
Oh, yeah. Or maybe it's a matter of wherever this salt, kind of chasm
Hmm.
moves to, it pushes the grubs away or something like that.
Or it makes them huge because the more grubs you have, the
Yeah.
worse your vegetation becomes. They eat the
Okay.
roots. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Whew.
Ooh, that's scary. Ooh, moths could live out there too. White moths,
Hmm. Oh,
big ones.
I don't buy that for a second because we all know there's no lamps out there. So
That's true. It's very dark.
yeah. All right, Daniel, what's your next event?
Event. Let's see. My event that I was thinking about, we talked about in the first episode there being either a culinary arts academy or a university where the best of the best with chef wizards go to study and learn more secrets and recipes and things. I wanted to flesh out the grand cooking contests, tasting contests that occurs where every nation sends their best of their best to compete.
The
And
tournament arc. Yes, give it to
yes,
me.
and
Give it to
so
me.
here's what I'm thinking. Some stuff that happens there. Well, for one, when you submit your contestants into this thing, there's a variety of tests to test their ability. Some of those tests involve going on quests to hunt a dangerous insect or get a powerful ingredient from a dangerous place. So these tests are very deadly, right? For one. For two, they might be thrust into this underground labyrinth under the university, and they're blinded and they're deafened temporarily, perhaps with like a venom from a bee or some other horrible insect, and they have to rely on their smell and their taste to survive down there and to get whatever the prize is. And now, third, to make this all worthwhile, I think there'd have to be a tremendous prize. And what I was thinking the prize would be possibly a seedling that's untainted by whatever poison is happening, and that if it were planted in a particular nation or land, it could grow to be its own ley line and fertilize the area. So they're competing for the possibility of the renewal of one of their lands.
I never thought that the ley lines were directly like attributed to plants before, but
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much. Like I love the idea that ley lines are roots from very powerful magical trees or
Yeah,
plants in
that's what I'm
general.
thinking.
That's really cool. I love that. Okay, so what else can we do about the Hogwarts Wizarding School of Cookery
Of
here?
cookery.
Do they
Yeah,
only let in a certain amount of people each year? Like, is it kind of like I'm thinking of Starfleet, where it's just like, oh, sorry, we can only let 6 people in. So yeah, normally we would have let you in, but there were 4 better candidates.
I think so. I think maybe, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. Is I don't know if the place is primarily only for this crazy contest, or if it's normally a university where they train the best of the best, and once every so often they have this contest. So maybe both. In which case,
I
it would be a limited few.
I like to think that this is like this is where this is where the representatives of each like type of cooking come.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they bring to this thing the best brewer, they
Yeah.
bring the best confectioner, they bring the best baker, cook, all that stuff, and they're like, all right, this is interclass warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out who's going to be the one to do it, and then go from there.
Yeah, and if the reward is the seedling, every country is going to work towards preparing their best person to send because they want the seedling to
Of
renew their
course.
land.
Now, Daniel, that of course brings me to my next obvious question, which is where do they get the seedlings from?
Ha! I think that has something to do with the cats.
Oh,
They
so
leave a
maybe
trail of seeds.
maybe like the chonky beef cat sages, they like
Mhm.
wander and every now and again they will, or like one of them partakes in a pilgrimage each year.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I'm the one who brought the seedling this year. Like my brothers or my, my siblings are up for it next time, that type of thing.
Yeah. And then maybe there's an honor of learning a secret from the cat that comes with that seedling, the particular one that came.
Oh, maybe it's also like the cat sage has to follow and plant it in that particular nation, because it's like, hey, this is my sacred this is my sacred duty to come and plant this. I have to make sure that this goes through, that type of thing.
Yeah, that way there's not a chance of someone stealing it or corrupting it before it could be given.
Yes. I'm also thinking, because now I'm thinking of the dramatic moments, right? Where we have in alternate history, there's some despotic tyrant who's like, we will not have the sages, we will not. And so what they do is their representative wins that year, and they take the seedling in front of everyone and destroy it.
That's the abstainers do that for sure. The one
of course they do.
Run by the evil cat. Oh, what jerks.
Yeah, exactly right.
And also horrible.
Yeah, there's so much that you can do with that as well. I fucking adore
it's messed up.
Yeah. All right. Events are out of the way. Daniel, I just want to say that's such a fun event. And also I'm assuming we're doing this like once every year to 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, probably spaced out, because I figure like renewal of a whole country, that's probably once a generation, honestly.
Actually,
every graduating class.
Yeah, I mean, it could be if it's every 10 years, maybe you need the seedlings frequently then.
No, that's actually what I was going to say, is if you have it be an annual event, and you could stress like, oh, this country hasn't won in a couple of years and they're starting to get really low.
That's true.
Like, so maybe there's a little bit more increased desperation. So like, we need a champion, we need someone. It's been too long. We our ley lines are growing weak. Like adding a sense of urgency by having it be an annual thing, but also lowering the lifespan of each of those, kind of ley line plants makes more sense, I think.
Yeah, because it raises questions too, like which we can explore in the plot hooks in the next episode. Is like, how much do they know about the leeching of the land, that Chris came up with, and to what degree are they aware that, okay, you can keep having these annual seedling contests, but sooner or later the leech is going to get you,
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because my conflict for this episode, and this is actually unrelated. Mine is actually the conflict between the people who are trying to find out what is causing the ley lines to wither and wilt away. So it's like the ley lines are fading. Good food is getting harder and harder to find. Some people scrounge for ingredients while others seek to find a solution to the wilting ley lines. This is like what I wanted to focus on here, was about exploration and adventure, like discovery, like the stuff that is like, it's not just, like nation against nation. It's about individuals versus nature. It is, like that's the kind of fun part that I really enjoy. But one thing that I really wanted to make sure where we are right now is that what is causing the ley lines to wither is a mystery. And I'm okay with like kind of exploring that concept now, but my main conflict that I really wanted to focus on was the withering ley lines in general. Like I really wanted to make that clear. Also, am I wrong? Did we establish that these ley lines were withering last episode? Because I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we established that the land was withering, and then I don't know if it was you or Chris, but when you suggested using ley lines, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And then we said, well, what if they're plants?
We said that the ley lines were strong. We didn't mention that they were weakening, but
yeah, that's actually what I thought. I thought that we talked about the idea that the food outside of the ley lines is nutritious, but there's no flavor to it. Yeah. And it's the magic through the ley line that gives it flavor.
Oh, so I thought, like, it's funny when you guys said that, I was picturing like, that's true, and because they're weakening, that's why the land is losing its flavor.
That's so interesting, because my whole deal was like, oh, okay, the ley lines aren't like, the ley lines are strong. They're what's giving the world flavor.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're both true, right?
Yeah. But I guess we just kind of came at it from different angles.
Well, I mean, it makes sense to talk more about it though, because that's the central thing. That's the central conflict.
And that's actually why I want to talk about it, is because this is essentially the equivalent of, hey, magic is dying in this world, and we got to figure out how and why.
So how and why they're withering, that is?
Yeah, that's the main, that's the mystery. That's the mystery that I wanted to include for the conflict, essentially.
We have on the table. So we have on the table Chris's bleach fields, which I think they must be in some way related. They're clearly causing a weakening effect as well, right?
Was Chris's major event, was that the thing that started the weakening of the magic? We can take Chris's scarring of the land and then make it deeper.
Yeah.
Make it deeper, where it's not just the physical land that's being disrupted, but the magic beneath it and infused within. All right, well, let's continue on then. Let's move on to Daniel. What was your conflict?
I wanted to talk a little bit about the cats because, well, awesome, like fat magical cats, like they're the best.
Sorry, I need to interrupt here. I believe you mean Chonky Beefcats.
Yes, the Chonky Beefcats.
Let's make it clear. Okay,
they're magical, right? So they're inherently great. So I thought, well, the cats, aside from being like a Cheshire cat kind of thing, and we know they're wandering around and they're mystical and weird, they seem to all have different flavors or cooking philosophies. What if there was some conflict that or not conflict, but some kind of I want to start over again. What if there was an origin to these cats, and they were originally one cat that got split into multiple cats by something that went wrong, whether it was an alchemical experiment or an attempt to maybe heal the ley lines. But that the idea was that the cats are multiple now, and the conflict is that they I guess among themselves don't know whether they want to be rejoined or whether they want to continue having conflicting like philosophies.
I fucking love that so much. I'm looking at it from like a divine perspective, right?
Yeah.
Where it might not necessarily be that this is an inherently divine creature, but like maybe it's a difference in opinion, right? Like, is this a matter of like, well, you know, we split ourselves into 7 parts and then came back and all came to 7 different conclusions.
Exactly. Kind of yeah. Like they have a philosophical conflict, and perhaps even one of them is that evil cat who had a very different opinion, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's a matter of, hold on. I'm losing myself here. Okay. I love this idea. I love the idea that this is one creature that's split into 7. And of course, now they look at the sage cats and like, oh, it's a divine being, right? But not necessarily in like a worship it type of way, but one that just deserves respect, right? Although, of course, obviously with like your mayor of Flavortown evil guy there, he's probably like,
he's scheming,
and he's obviously some like they worship him like a cult, that I can appreciate.
I bet he rivals in power to an individual cat,
Yeah.
So each one is like an aspect of the personality or the magic of this kind of deified being.
They originally were one, but now like they're all individual. They're not like they're individual entities, but their individuality is from one whole.
Right. Essentially, they like one divine being decided, hey, I'm going to split myself into different parts and try and figure out the best solution to this problem. What flavor profile is the best? And then they all came back with 7 very different answers,
including the bad cat who decided, well, I'm going to eat all of you.
Yes. He decided that he did. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Now we have to go into cat lore. Yes. Now we have to talk about the idea that there were 9 cats and now there are 8 because the evil one ate one of them.
Yes. He's trying to rejoin them, but he's like, fuck it. I don't want to be rejoined into what I was originally. I'm going to be my own thing. I'm going to eat all of you guys.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Now we need to talk about, let's say that there's 9. Let's say that there's 9 different flavor profiles, right?
Yeah.
Or like 9 different flavors or methods of cooking.
Is this like the Highlander of cats?
Yeah, yes.
Of these cats, yes. Of Chonky Beefcats in particular. what is the lost flavor profile / cooking method?
Oh, like the the umami or the hidden flavor that people don't know about.
MSG.
Yes.
MSG that just enhances flavor. That's
Oh,
It's
different.
like umami.
Before you answer that question, though, the flavors, can they be something that's not obvious? Like instead of salty, could it be like joy is a flavor or fear is a flavor? And they're very unique, weird, metaphysical things.
I love that. Absolutely. I love that. It's
Like
not like
nostalgia.
you're looking to
Yeah.
cook like spicy. I
That's what
I
you want
don't
to
need
evoke. Yeah.
yeah, it's a matter of how do you taste nostalgia? How do you taste fear? How do you and by the
Cook
way,
to generate
shout
that
outs to
emotion.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, that
With that
episode with
episode
the
with
barrel.
no, the fear soup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you cook, like they don't cook to create something that's like you said, spicy or salty. They cook to make you remember or to make you love or fear. And
Yes.
that's the evocation of the magic.
And of course, and isn't that the most powerful thing when it comes to food, when
Yes.
you have a food related experience and it's like and it like
Right.
takes your breath away
Oh my God.
specifically for that reason.
So then your question was which one's missing? So what's missing from the world?
Oh man. Okay. Now we're getting into the real deep philosophical. Are can we put a pin in that and just
Yeah.
like put it on like, hey, that's the mystery part?
Something's missing from the
The
world.
plot
Oh, I
hooks.
love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, let's leave that to be. I think that actually might be more interesting if we leave it blank,
Mhm.
because that way people can be like, oh well, it's obviously this, and that's why this
Oh, and
this
they're all
and this.
debating it.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it can be one of those things where it's like it's different for each world that you run. Like maybe
Mhm.
this world is missing joy, maybe this land is missing
Oh man, I
fear.
love this.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very very cool way to do that. Whew. All right, let's bring it on home. Chris, go ahead and hit us with your conflict.
The conflict that I had in mind, I wanted it to be. I'm not sure if we did it as the recording or if it was like the after part of it. The gastronomique monks that were kind of going around and kind of. I want to say like a holy crusade. I wanted them to be like book burning of things that they feel like were not following their sacred texts.
I believe we called it the Gastronomicon.
Oh right.
Astronomicon.
Gastronomic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
I wanted them to be like people who would go out and like destroy things and deface things that did not conform to their way of belief.
Now with this, right? Like, what makes them different from the cult that Daniel has? The ones who kind of scrape their tongues and abstain from food in general. What's the difference between them?
Because they're still like accepted and they still have like access to the spices and everything. They just don't agree with their usage of what people do. So they're still all right with flavor, but it's kind of like, oh, you put the pepper in too soon, so we're going to have to take all your pots, kind of thing.
They're the purists.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they're the ultra purists. So it's like they're the type of chef who thinks that French cooking is the only cooking.
Mm-hmm.
You can only use a wooden spoon. To not use a wooden spoon is sacred, is heresy, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like the cooking orthodoxy.
Yeah, I had a French chef that once yelled at me because I was just like, well, why wouldn't I use a silicone spoon? And he was just like,
how dare you?
Are you fucking questioning me?
I love that. So they're like super, like not just haughty, but like they're very severe, like about this. Like they're really, really deeply into this.
They're basically pilgrims.
Yeah.
Or like that type of religious fervor, where it's all fire and brimstone. Mm-hmm. And in certain cases, it might literally be fire and brimstone to cook whatever they're trying to cook.
And do they now, in terms of where they live, like what kind of landscape do they live in?
Oh, I wanted them to be like have monasteries everywhere and like that they like a lot of people rely on them for what they do. It's just the fact that every now and then they kind of go a little bit zealous.
What animal are they?
a collection of many.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to push back on the idea that these are monocultures that we're creating here when it comes to this animal is always this way. Like I like the idea that, these nations are more or less, maybe they start out as collectives of certain animals, but it's more like a, menagerie. It's when you call yourself part of a certain nation, it doesn't mean that they're all foxes, but a group of animals. Maybe it's predominantly fox, or maybe it's predominantly deer or something like that, but it differs.
Yeah, like that would be definitely like a good departure from the average like treatment of furry characters almost. Because I think what you can get away with when you have anthropomorphized characters like this is you can base a bunch of them off of their instinct. So like you can say, like, for example, I don't know, like owly types are brooding and smart and get away with it, whereas like you can't necessarily do that if you're dealing with humanoids without
Right,
it
like
being
you can
problematic.
actually play into species stereotypes.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, you look at we talked about this in the world building of Beast Stars, right? Like that is actually one of the more fascinating aspects of world building in that series that I really appreciate. And I'd love to just like kind of copy paste here, where it's like, what does that look like? And, what does that mean for the implication in this particular setting?
Yeah. I also like when we set off certain ones as being special, like the cats, because then you've got to question, okay, what's interesting? What makes it so special about a cat that it's different than all the other animals,
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I do like the deified cat.
Or the insects.
Yeah.
Oh, you need the insects. That's how do you get milk?
I mean, how do you get aphid, brewery?
Yeah, you gotta have
Gentlemen,
aphid
I think
cheese.
that's just about going to wrap it up for this episode. I continue to be enamored and excited for this setting. I really do love the idea and the concept. I think that we should dig a little bit further into the mechanics of the magic next episode. In next episode, we're going to be talking about plot hooks. So you better believe that I'm going to be talking about some magical plot hooks in the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm only going to be talking about aphid drinking dwarves who ride insects.
You mean moles? Moles are perfectly
sorry,
fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So remember that if you ever want to send us a prompt or an idea, if you know what, even if you've sent us an idea already and we've done an episode about it, you can always email us again. Even if you've already sent an email and we've already done an episode, if you have another idea, send it in, man. There's no problem with that. And if you forget the email, I got you. Don't worry. It's worldbuildwithus@gmail.com. Or if you want to do a tweet, that's fine too. You can go ahead and shoot one off there at Let's Worldbuild. And that'll do it for this episode. We'll see you next week. Remember that we love you very much, and we're going to get through this together.